Hi guys, my name is Sybil and welcome to Take 254. This is going to be a spoiler review of the live action adaptation of Netflix's One Piece. So Netflix did an adaptation of One Piece that debuted last week, exactly a week ago on August 31st. And this is my reaction and review of season 1 of One Piece. So I have no idea. Before watching Netflix's adaptation, I had no idea what One Piece was. I had heard of One Piece just because I'm a person in society, so I'd heard that name thrown about. I remember in high school the boys were really into One Piece, so I would hear that title being thrown about, but I never really knew what it was about. I don't read manga. I've never read any manga, and I don't even qualify to be called a casual anime fan. The only interaction with anime I've ever had was, okay, I watched a little bit of Bleach, but I got bored of it when it went into these side quests and side characters, so I never completed Bleach. So that's one anime that I've watched. Another anime that I watched was Death Note on Netflix. I did watch Death Note like I want to say 3 years or so ago. I also didn't manage to complete that. Something about anime, they always divert the story and focus on side characters and just go into a whole B plot that eventually I end up losing interest and dropping the manga. Oh, and Attack on Titan season 1. I got into that way back when, back in like 2014. Then it took way too long for them to have a follow-up with season 2. By that time, I'd already lost interest, and I've just watched so many analyses of Attack on Titan anyway, so I know the whole story without having to go and watch seasons 2, 3, and 4. So that is my interaction with anime so far. So I went into One Piece completely blind. I did not know what to expect. I never even really understood what One Piece means. I used to think it had something to do with peace, actually, like Peace. So I thought it was something like that. So when I went into this, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed One Piece and how touching it was. It was so dense. The episodes are an hour long. There are 8 episodes, and there's so much packed into it. And there's this whole huge world that you get introduced to, and it's a lot to take in as a newbie. So in episode 1, they do a really good job of introducing people who are not familiar with either the manga or the anime like me into this world and explaining what One Piece is about. They actually explain to you the title card. So it starts with so One Piece is basically about pirates. It's a show about pirates, and it starts off with a flashback to the past. So there are these there's this organization as the Marines. They control the seas. They're basically the police of the seas, and then their job is to keep the pirates in order. They view them, as a scourge upon society and the earth, and they're always trying to get them in line. So they capture Captain Gold Roger. He's the most notorious pirate in this world, and he's captured, and just before he's publicly executed, we see him in a crowd full of characters that will come to later on find out they're major characters and major players in this world. You see a flashback to a young Shanks, you see a flashback to a young Mihawk. You'll get to understand who these characters are, and I'm sure there are other people in the crowd, that people who are fans of this anime and manga may have picked up on and noticed that a casual, well, a newbie like me does not know anything about. I just noticed Shanks and the Mihawk in the past when they were doing a flashback to Goldtooth's execution, where he says, he basically sets in motion the age of pirates by telling this crowd of young aspiring pirates that I have discovered everything and achieved everything this world has to offer: wealth, fame, and power. And this whole legacy and legend around him developed, that he had amassed this wealth that they call the One Piece. And it's somewhere out there in the 4 seas, and everyone has been trying for the past 22 years to locate this One Piece. And there's some doubt as to whether it's really true or it's just a story. So that is basically the story behind One Piece. It's about pirates. And our focus, our main character is this young boy called Monkey D. Luffy, and we start with him embarking on trying to create a crew and become a pirate and find the One Piece and become king of the pirates. So that's what he always expresses. That's his desire. He's very positive, he's very bubbly, he's very lively, and he comes a bit across as a naive, almost like a country bumpkin type of character. So we see him just going through adventures, trying to amass a crew, get a ship, and fulfill his lifelong dream of becoming king of the pirates. So because the show, I'm not familiar with it, I'm not familiar with this world, I barely qualify as a casual anime fan, I'm just gonna do a countdown of my favorite moments from season 1 of Netflix's live action adaptation of One Piece, and I'll start counting down from the least to my favorite moment. So starting with moment number 10, I will say that the introduction of Captain Rogers. So as I said, this is basically a great introduction for a newbie like me into this world, just giving a background into what this world is about. It's about pirates. He sets the motion of this world into action by putting the fire into all these young and aspiring pirates, that there's some treasure out there known as the One Piece that they're all trying to get for themselves so that they can get this title as king of the pirates. So that was my favorite moment number 10 for me, the introduction in episode 1 in this flashback of Captain Gold Roger at his execution and him declaring, basically giving like a task to all these young aspiring pirates: go out there and find my treasure. So moment number 9, my favorite moment from the season 1 of One Piece, is the introduction of my favorite character, Roronoa Zoro. He's my favorite character. I liked when he and Luffy met each other and the interaction they had when he had been captured by Captain Morgan. So we meet we get a flashback of this character Roronoa when he's some type of samurai, and he's a captain. So Roronoa Zoro is a pirate hunter, and he's the most famous and most feared pirate hunter in the East Blue. So this world, it's a huge world. It reminds me of earlier seasons of Game of Thrones, just trying to understand this world. It's a huge world. There's a lot of world building into it, and there's a map that explains that there are these 4 seas: north, east, south, and west. East Blue. So right now we are in East Blue, as far as I understand it. Everything that's happening is happening in a corner of the seas known as the East Blue. So Roronoa Zoro is the most famous and feared pirate hunter in the East Blue. So since pirates are basically viewed as criminals and as a scourge upon society in this world, there are people who, like the Marines or pirate hunters like Roronoa Zoro, who take it upon themselves to capture these pirates for bounties. So the show always breaks the fourth wall in a very cool way by showing these wanted posters of these various pirates with their faces on there and their bounty written at the bottom. So you can have a bounty of like $10 million. Well, in this world, the currency is called berries. So you can have a bounty of 10 million berry, a bounty of 15 million berry, and so on and so forth. So we just get our introduction to Roronoa Zoro, who is my favorite character in this show, and his interaction with Luffy when they're in this bar. Luffy is just watching from the sidelines as Roronoa Zoro is defending a little girl from another character that's behaving really badly. So that whole interaction piques Luffy's interest in Roronoa Zoro, and he welcomes him and invites him to be a member of his crew very optimistically, as Luffy does. And just the whole banter back and forth and the resistance that Roronoa has towards Luffy initially, and him eventually coming around to tagging along with him was great. So that's moment number 9. Favorite moment number 8 is when the crew goes to this ocean restaurant known as the Barati. So in this world of One Piece, in the East Blue, there's this restaurant run by this chef named as Chef Zeph called the Barati. And I really loved the whole restaurant, the ambience of the restaurant, how it looked, the music, the patrons there, and how the crew was interacting with each other. So by this point, Luffy has already amassed. He's gotten his core 3 members of his crew. So that's Roronoa Zoro as his first mate, and another character known as Nami and Usopp. By this time, all 4 of them are together, and they are hungry, and they've been adventuring together. They have gotten a ship, so the ship is named the Going Merry, and they got it from Usopp's friend known as, what's her name? Lady Kaya. So Usopp's rich friend Lady Kaya is the one who gifted them this pirate ship known as the Going Merry. That's it's a famous ship. I'm sure fans of this manga are familiar with this ship and how it looks. It has a goat head at the top of the ship. I don't know ship terminology, but at the front of the ship it's shaped like a goat's head or a sheep's head. I don't know. So yeah. So after the adventures of getting a ship together and amassing his 3 core group members of his pirate crew, they go to have dinner in this place called as the Barati, that's well known in the East Blue. It's a floating ocean restaurant run by Chef Zeph, and there we get to meet another character that will be folded into this crew known as Sanji. And so I really liked that whole interaction, them having dinner and them just seeing the group dynamics, the friendships forming among these people, and them laughing and getting to see the food prep, all that. I like those scenes in the restaurant, them cutting food, preparing food, and just the whole ambience. So that was really great. Then my favorite moment, number 7, was Sanji's backstory. So in the Barati, we meet this character who becomes one of the crew members in Luffy's, crew. And his name is Sanji, and we get his backstory. His backstory is so touching. So we get to see how him and Chef Zeph formed this relationship, how he came to work in the Barati and be one of the chefs in this restaurant known as the Barati. And you see how him and Chef Zeph had this period where they were stranded on it was barely an island. It was a rock out in the sea for more than 100 days. And you get the backstory as to how Chef Zeph lost his leg and the things him and Chef Zeph had to do to survive. And it's just a very touching story about this bond between a young boy. At the time he was a little boy, he looked barely 10 or 12 years old, and just the relationship between a mentor and a mentee, and this young boy and this man, and the sacrifices they did, the things they had to do to survive while being stranded on this piece of rock out in the ocean for more than 100 days. So his backstory was very touching, Sanji's backstory. Moment 6, my 6th favorite moment from One Piece is Luffy's fight with Arlong. So in this world, we have mini villains that Luffy meets along the way in his quest to get a crew together, to get a ship, in his, all in his quest to fulfill his dream to become king of the pirates by being the first one to get to this One Piece treasure of Captain Gold Roger. So one of the villains, recurring villains in this world that we see in season 1 is this fishman captain known as Arlong. So in this world of One Piece, we have like a species of like half man, half human beings known as the fishmen, and they have an interesting place in society in this world. They're like second class citizens, and there's a whole backstory of how much they have struggled to make strides in society to achieve like equality with the humans. And some of these fishmen, like Captain Along, harbor a resentment and a deep hatred for human beings, and basically want to do to human beings what human beings did to them, which was enslave them, and they feel like they're superior to human beings. So this is our villain that keeps coming up over and over again throughout this season of One Piece. So in the end, towards like episode 7 and 8, we have Luffy and Arlong coming to a head and having a fight. And the fight between Arlong and Luffy, what I really liked about it is that it showcased Luffy's intelligence and resourcefulness. So Luffy quickly figures out that he's outmatched when he's fighting with Arlong, but then he figures out that if he can't beat Arlong the person, what he can do is destroy what Arlong has worked so hard to amass, which is his empire, his wealth. The fight is happening in Arlong Park, which is like Arlong's home base. So he starts destroying using his powers. So Luffy has powers, by the way. I didn't mention this. He has stretch powers, and you'll figure out as you watch this show how he came about to have these powers. So he uses his stretch powers to just punch through and destroy and bring down this palace known as the Arlong Park. And that's how he ends up winning the fight against Arlong, Captain Arlong, at least temporarily. He won the battle this time. So that was my favorite moment 6 from One Piece. My favorite moment number 5 is when Shanks and Luffy bid each other farewell. So with Luffy, who is our main character, we get to learn bits and pieces about him throughout the episodes through flashbacks. And we learn that when he was a little boy, he living on the island that he lives in. I'm not so familiar with the world yet, so I'm not exactly sure where he is. I know everything is right now. It's happening in a corner of the sea known as the East Blue. So we're in the East Blue. We're getting flashbacks to a young Luffy, and he has befriended this crew of pirates that has this leader known as Shanks, and him and Shanks have a great friendship. And so just before Shanks has to leave now for the final time, so it seems like Shanks goes through periods where he comes and goes for months at a time from this island where Luffy is, and they interact, and Luffy has been wanting to join Shanks' crew for the longest time. That's his wish. But finally Shanks tells him, this is the last time you're ever gonna see me. I'm never gonna come back again. And this is where we see Luffy's famous hat. Where he got it from Shanks. So Shanks used to wear this straw hat, and that was like a parting gift that he gives Luffy. And this is apparently a canon event that is well known to the manga and anime watchers of One Piece, where Shanks bestows the straw hat on the head of Luffy. It's almost like he was knighting him as the next Shanks, potentially. So that was a touching moment in One Piece Season 1, and it was my favorite moment number 5. Favorite moment number 4, we have Luffy's fight with Captain Alvida. So this happens in episode 1. So episode 1 is very dense. There's a lot packed into it. It's going at a breakneck speed, and it's just introducing you both to this world and this main character and his motivations and all these side villains, minor villains, and Captain Alvida is one of these minor villains that Luffy interacts with and easily defeats in the first episode. So when Luffy, we meet him, he's out on this in the open ocean, and his boat is sinking, and he jumps into, what do you call it, like a barrel. He jumps into a barrel to stay afloat because Luffy cannot swim. He's an aspiring captain, but he cannot swim. And as you're watching the show, you get to find out why he cannot swim. There's a backstory. There's a meaning behind why he cannot swim. So his barrel gets pulled up onto the ship that's captained by Captain Alvida, who is a cruel woman. She's one of these cruel captains, mistreating everyone in the crew. People really feared her. And so you have Luffy meeting another character that's pretty famous and well liked in the manga, known as Kobe. And Kobe doesn't like Alvida, and he basically wants to be free from her and her terrible reign. So Luffy fights with Captain Alvida, and this is where we as the audience get to first see Luffy using his stretch powers, and we find out that he has stretch powers. He gives an explanation to Kobe later on when he's done defeating Captain Alvida as to how he came about to get these stretch powers. And we also get to see something, this recurring thing where Luffy, when he's fighting, he calls out his finishing moves. And it's not just him, the other characters who do it too. So that's a thing that's also a part of this world that's kind of just silly but fun too, where Luffy will call out his finishing moves when he's fighting a villain. So yeah, so that was just a really fun introduction into Luffy's stretch powers, the backstory as to how he came about to get these stretch powers, and also this running gag of calling out, finishing moves when you're fighting against a villain. So that was fun. My favorite moment, number 3, is Nami's backstory. So again, this is one of the core crew that Luffy amasses in his adventure in becoming captain of this king of the pirates in this world. So there's a character named as Nami. She's this the only girl actually in this crew, and her backstory is so touching, seeing her motivation. So she has an interaction. Her story is very much tied to Captain Along, the fishman captain pirate, and you just get to see her motivations and why she did what she did, and it humanizes her character, fleshes her out. So her backstory was also another one that really touched me and I really liked. Seeing her, she had a mother, a sister, she lived on this island, and the life growing up on this island that has now been taken over and is under Along's rule, and how they're being mistreated, and how she had to basically turn into a villain and get hated by the very same people she grew up with because of things she had to do under Along's, jurisdiction, under his rule. So her backstory is very interesting too and touching. My favorite moment, number 2, is when Nami and Luffy first meet each other. Again, this is in episode 1, so much happens in episode 1. We get Nami meeting Luffy, we get Luffy meeting both Nami and Zoronoa. And so when Nami and Luffy meet each other, they are both on a quest to find this map, because Luffy wants to become king of the pirates, so he needs a map to the One Piece, and the map to the One Piece is being put is in a safe in the marine base. So this marine base, both him and Nami are at the marine base trying to get to the map to the Grand Line. So that's where the One Piece is suspected to be. And just the whole interaction with each other, there's a lot of comedy and the chemistry between those two actors, the portraying Luffy and Nami, is great. And you see how you see the skill sets that each one of them brings to this crew, you see the skill sets that each one of these characters brings to Luffy's crew. You see how Nami is very good at being a cat burglar, at being a liar. She's resourceful too, and how that impresses Luffy and makes him want to. He's almost like acquiring friends, like picking them up like souvenirs, curating a crew for himself. So he's captivated by how resourceful and what a good liar and what a good thief she is. And the mini adventure was just fun. I liked it. So it was my second favorite interaction moment from this One Piece. So my favorite moment number one from One Piece is Luffy's monologue to Nami. So once we get Nami's backstory and her whole motivation for doing what she's doing, Luffy gives this whole monologue that for the first time, I think really won me over to his positivity, to his philosophy of following your dream, his undying loyalty, his love of friendship. And when he places his straw hat on Nami, the way Shanks had done to him, it's just so touching. So that's my most favorite moment from One Piece season one. And one of the honorary mentions is Roronoa Zoro, his fight with Mihawk. So Roronoa Zoro, his dream. So everyone here has like a dream, and Luffy's thing is just going around asking people what their lifelong dream is and basically helping them to achieve that dream, as he himself is also pursuing his own dream to become king of the pirates. And Roronoa Zoro, his dream is to become the greatest swordsman who has ever lived. So right now, he is a great swordsman in the East Blue, but he's not the greatest swordsman in the world. The greatest swordsman in the world at this time is a character known as Mihawk, who is a very cool character that we get to see, who we're not so sure, is he a villain? Is he an anti-hero? That's still up in the air for non-manga, non-anime viewers like me. I'm not sure where he falls on the line, but he's a very cool character. So we have him fighting with Roronoa Zoro, Mihawk and Roronoa Zoro fighting, and obviously Roronoa loses, and not only does he loses, he's almost at death's door. And what I really liked about this moment was how it showed the faults in Luffy's philosophy of following your dream at whatever cost. So Luffy is so dedicated to this philosophy of following your dream at whatever cost, and he knew that Roronoa's dream was to become the greatest swordsman, and a way for him to demonstrate that was to fight with Mihawk and best him, and therefore claim the title of the greatest swordsman. But it just shows the faults in Luffy as a leader and how it affected the whole dynamic of the crew, because at this time all these people, Roronoa and Usopp and Nami, they're still all new to each other and still forming the friendship. We're not exactly sure how much time they've spent with each other. I'm assuming each episode covers about a week because they're so dense and so many things happen. So they've only been knowing each other for a few weeks now. And when Luffy lets Roronoa go through with this fight with Mihawk, even though he would clearly lose, it just shows the faults in his philosophy and his lack of judgment, and it causes the crew to lose trust in him for a bit. And just when we have Roronoa at his deathbed, how the different characters react to him possibly dying, it also reveals a lot about their characters and their coping mechanisms too. So that is an honorary mention of one of my favorite moments from One Piece. So all in all, I would say like the first two episodes and the last two episodes of One Piece, the eight episodes in total, are the strongest. The pacing is very quick, it's very dense, it's just keeping you on your toes, especially as a newbie like me. You're just still you have whiplash just trying to keep up with all these characters coming at you. And then between episodes 3 through 6, like the pacing there, it's hit and miss. You have a lot of time given to side characters and side arcs that are not particularly interesting to me, like for example the Marines. We have a lot of time spent with the Marines in the Marine bases. There's a Captain Garb that we spend a lot of time with, and Kobe, who we meet through Luffy in episode 1. I don't particularly care for Kobe, but he seems to be a popular character in this world among the anime fans. But we spend a lot of time with him too, and we just spend a lot of time with also Kaya and Usopp's backstory, and Kaya, who is the rich lady who gifts Laffy their ship named the Going Merry. So we spend a lot of time just on that side quest of getting the ship together. So there's just a lot of time wasted with side characters and side plots that I didn't particularly care for between episodes 3 and 6. But the first 2 episodes were very strong and the last 2 episodes were very strong. So overall, I would just say it's a very strong show. I would just say that, you know, I really enjoyed the live action. I feel like this live action was made for people like me who will probably never read the One Piece manga and will probably never watch the One Piece anime, but I feel like I have been converted into a live action fan girl. So I think that was the purpose of making a live action of One Piece. And if that was the purpose, that they have achieved it. Just converting and reaching to an audience that would never interact with either the anime or the manga, but would give a chance to the live action adaptation of this show. And my favorite characters, as I said, Roronoa is my favorite, followed by Luffy. I really liked Luffy. I came to, as the season went along, I came to really appreciate Luffy and believe in his positivity and believe in his, you know, his one-track mindedness, his stubbornness, his optimism to the point of being delulu. He's delusional. But especially with my favorite scene being him giving that monologue to Nami after she feels defeated around episode 7 with some events that have gone on. You should just go and watch it for yourself. That monologue really sold Luffy's character to me and made his optimism not just seem kind of naive and foolish. He really sold that. The Iñaki, the guy portraying Luffy, really sold that scene for me. So Nami too, I really like the character of Nami. I find her interesting, badass. She can hold her own among being the only female among this crew of men. Usopp, I really liked him too. He's funny with his exaggerations. Usopp is a really good example of the boy who cried wolf. When he sees backstory and how he exaggerates, Usopp is just the embodiment of the boy who cried wolf. And then when the wolf actually comes around, because he's been lying and exaggerating so much, no one takes him seriously or believes him. So Usopp was really funny too. I liked Sanji. His backstory really won me over to him. And I think he's a good addition to this crew. I like his back and forth with Roronoa Zoro. He's like a foil to Roronoa Zoro. You know, Roronoa Zoro is that typical, like, quiet, mysterious. Secretly, he's a softie inside, but outwardly, he's acting like he doesn't care and he doesn't want to be a part of anything. To Sanji's bubbly, happy, excited. So they're good foils for each other. I like the dynamic between those two. I love Chef Zeph. His backstory with Sanji and their relationship and their goodbye was also another touching moment. Another honorary mention was Chef Zeph and Sanji saying goodbye to each other. And some villain, the Admiral Garb was okay. And the villain Arlong, he made a good recurring villain throughout this show. So this show, it has so much heart, which I wouldn't have expected from it. As I said, I didn't know anything about One Piece. It has so much heart. And I love the emphasis of friendship and the emphasis of mentorship, especially between older men and the younger boys. That's a running theme throughout the show. You have it with Luffy and Shanks. That's his mentor and who he looks up to and who has inspired him to want to become a pirate. And you have it with Sanji and Chef Zeph. So that mentorship-mentee relationship between older men and younger boys was really well portrayed in this show. And this they also have these themes, very adult themes, but not adult in terms of nudity or sexual, adult in terms of just these themes exploring the passage of time. Another honorary mention was a conversation between Chef Zeph and Captain. So Captain Garb is throughout the show hot on the heels of Luffy. He's trying to capture him and he's been trailing him all through this throughout the show, and it leads him to the Bharati, and gets to interact with Chef Zeph. So that conversation that Chef Zeph and Captain Garb, that conversation Chef Zeph and Captain Garb had with each other, and them exploring the themes of the passage of time and the old giving way to the new, was very interesting. And the feel of the show, it just feels like Pirates of the Caribbean, the first Pirates of the Caribbean installment movie. It feels like early MCU, you know, the Avengers, Fast Avengers. It feels like Ed, and Eddie. I don't know if you ever watched Cartoon Network's Ed, and Eddie, especially their usage of music, that zany jazz type of chaotic music. This show does a really good job of making the music, the score, almost feel like a second character in a scene. It really underscores the fight scenes and the comedy, the physical comedy in a scene. So overall, the show is just really good. I love the world building. The world building reminds me of early Game of Thrones. It's a huge world, and I feel like we've only just touched the surface, scratched the surface of this world. And I would classify this as an action, adventure, a mystery, a comedy, especially physical comedy. They do that so well. It's fantastical. There are a lot of fantastical elements of this. It's kind of unserious. It's very silly. It's cartoonish, but in a live action. It's like a live action cartoon. It has a lot of childish, elementary school humor to it too. And all in all, I really enjoyed this One Piece, and they've made a fangirl out of me for the live action. Not the anime, not the manga, but for the live action, I would definitely recommend you watch. What do you think? Have you watched One Piece? What did you think about it? Are you a first-time viewer like me, or are you a long-time fan? If you're a long-time fan, please, in the comments down below, don't spoil this for us, but let us know, did it live up to your expectations? So all in all, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would recommend you go and watch One Piece on Netflix.